Rob Thompson, Game Plan You today. That's Geoff Wilson over there, global sports strategist from Ireland. How you doing, Geoff?
I'm doing really well, Rob. Rob, love the countdown. I was nearly bouncing along as well with the music. Absolutely great. Love it.
We get fancy here. We got fancy during the pandemic. We found that.
I love it. I was bouncing away to the music and saying, I can't wait until this starts. This is great. What a start.
Yeah, yeah, get you at the edge of your seat. So I appreciate your time. I mean, this one is going to be fast and furious for us. We haven't talked in a while, so we want to catch up with you on everything that's happening, your perspective on things. We want to help out some career seekers and some folks that have been furloughed or laid off in their careers in sports, and maybe some tips and advice that you have from your side of it. So let's start off with what we normally talk about: the digital transformation of sports on a global scale. From the last month or so, since we have spoken, and now that you see a lot of teams and leagues and NBA over here in the States, and kind of the business is starting to come back a little bit. What have you seen, and what's your perspective on what's happening out there right now?
Yeah, great question, Rob. I think what we're starting to see is more sports organizations, more sports federations, more franchises are really grasping this whole area of digital. They're having to. So that is from a whole range of different areas. So whether that is working from home and using digital technology within their organization, whether that is digital transformation, looking at different processes and digitalizing those within their organization and saving costs and all of that, or whether that is all about engaging with their fans, or whether that is in the area of performance. And I think really with digital, probably the performance side was the most one that was really people could see, the player tracking systems, all of these things. I think it's been now the fan engagement activity. I think the internal side, and I think the e-learning side with staff is really starting to progress. And I think a lot of clubs, federations, franchises are really starting to say, we need to get into this or we're going to be left behind. And I think that'll be quite an interesting space to be over the next 6 months in that area of digital transformation, content production, et cetera, et cetera.
What have you seen from sponsorship side of it? I know there's a lot of talk now with sponsors kind of had this allocation of funds that maybe didn't apply to the spring, summer, or Q2, Q3. What do you see happening in Q4? What are the conversations going on in the reallocation? Are they starting to rethink the digital side of it rather than the in-stadium hospitality and signage, etc.?
Yeah, a lot of them are starting to look at from a content point of view, a fan engagement point of view. They're all sort of saying, okay, well, certain rights that they maybe purchased in the past, tickets, hospitality, they can't do the same. So some of them, for example, if you take in Formula One, where you can do a virtual hospitality, and what a cool thing! You're in the house, and yet in essence the hospitality comes to you, but then you can go on to Zoom and get in behind the scenes coverage in different racing teams. So they have really started to engage in these different ideas and different thoughts. We're starting to see people watching together on Zoom calls. So whether that's NBA or whether it's other sports where you can watch together in your community. And I think that's important. That will be one thing that'll be very interesting to see over the coming time, whether you're going to engage within your community of like-minded sports or whether it's actually directly within your community of people that you know. And probably it'll be the latter, where you're really making that viewing habit watchable, but in a community sphere. So I think that'll be quite interesting. But I think from the sponsors' point of view, they're really saying, okay, how can I link in with new content? How can I link in with digital fan engagement? And all of these areas, how do we make an experience unique for their customers in their home? In essence, bringing the stadium or the venue or the game directly into their home. So I think that's going to be really interesting. I think we will see over the next period of time, growth in AR and VR. I think we'll see a lot more in these community type watch parties, and a lot more in terms of content and documentaries behind the scenes even further. And I think I'm a lot more in the data and the personalization, but able to personalize the experience unique to that individual. So, yeah, I think it's going to see a lot. And I think just as a final comment, whether we want to or not, I think the pandemic has forced us to change and forced us to do things differently. We're doing more than ever podcasts, conferences online. We're doing more Zoom calls. We're not doing the same traveling. And because of the pandemic, we're used to it. Where before people would have said, hey, come and see me. It's forcing us to do it. And that's making us really think innovative and creative.
Are you finding that teams and organizations and the governing bodies, is there less engagement? Did they find that during this time frame, was there less engagement with their teams? I mean, are people's attention as consumers going elsewhere? Or do you find that they're urging, they want more content, they want more information, they want to stay closer to the players? Is that what the conversations are happening over there?
Yeah, in general, I would even said globally, they want to get to know the players. They want to get to know the athletes. They want to get to know the people behind the team. So if you look at the Michael Jordan documentary, the numbers of people watching it was amazing because people wanted to be engaged with that sort of content. So what we're finding is they want to see what Ronaldo is doing in his home. They want to see his home. They want to see him doing maybe a challenge. They're wanting to see other players do the same. And the people that have got a link and a beautiful love for a team or franchise, they want to get in behind and to really understand their athletes. And I think what has happened there is the athletes now know that they are a brand. And they are also content creators. And because they're a brand and they're content creators, that I think when they start to move from different clubs or different teams can be an interesting conversation as part of the signing on fee because they bring certain brand value with them. They bring a certain audience with them, and that will help the franchise or the club. So I think those athletes that are smart, they're the ones who are building their brand positively. And they're also producing and providing engaging content to get to know their followers, building up the followers. And they will definitely help them in terms of rights fees for them as individuals when they move from franchise and club to club. So what I'm seeing is a real big move into the area of content creators, brand as the athletes. The club is having to work really difficult to say, hey, we're here. Now they're doing that, but they're having to work really hard. And what they're doing in that side is fan engagement type activities, watch parties, but they're also doing more community activity. And that's, if you look at the Gen Z, they want to support brands that are giving back into their community. So that's one thing I think that clubs are doing really well. And the other thing they're doing well on is archive footage. But my final point here, people love live sport. So live sport is still where it's at. Now what's happening, I think, with the pandemic, it's opened up another world of additional content, but still around the sports team or franchise. As I said, the content creators, the athletes, the clubs themselves, archive footage, etc., etc. But, people still love to see that live footage.
We're talking about digital transformation. And, obviously with us being in the industry, a lot of our friends, colleagues, and people we've known through the years have been affected by the last 4 or 5 months with teams, leagues, national governing bodies, sponsors scaling back media companies. A lot of people have been either furloughed, but unfortunately, a lot of people have lost their jobs over this. And I'm kind of transitioning a little bit, obviously, with this question. So, with those people out there who need to pivot in their careers and folks that are maybe career seekers looking to get into the industry right now with it being so tight, from your perspective, Geoff, what are those skills? We talk about digital, how important it is, analytics, content creating. What are those skills that you would suggest and advise people learn right now? So maybe I'm that old school sponsorship sales guy that really pay attention to the digital side of it. Or I'm just coming out of college and I really don't like social media, or I use social media in the wrong way. What are those skills? What's that advice that you could give to them, and what they could do now to start building up those soft skills?
Great question, Rob. I'm going to focus on 4. You could have 24, but I'm going to focus on 4 just to keep it real practical. So number 1, data analytics. Absolutely fundamental. Understand how to understand data, how to analyze data, and how to provide an insight from the data that you can then action on. So without doubt, the whole area of data and data analytics. Number 2, content creators or content producers, being able to produce that content, and the more innovative in the way that you can edit content, then the better, whether that's as an image, whether that's as text, or whether that's as video, or a mixture of all. Being really great at being a content creator. Number 3, I would say, is digital revenue specialists. No matter what, all us franchises, clubs, teams, federations, they all need money. And what's happening is we need to find out what other ways can we generate revenue, or what traditional ways can we digitalize. So those people who've got a deep understanding of how to make money on digital, I think, would be an important third skill. And number 4, which is probably, let's say, not sports related, but will be absolutely fundamental, I think, and probably a little bit more the longer term, is AI and automation skills. Being able to be an AI coder, being able to take processes and to be able to automate them, that saves that franchise, club, or team time. And to save time, then to save money. Or if a process can be then, or data put automatically to a fan, then in a more effective way, then even better. So the 4 for me: data analytics, content creators or producers, digital revenue specialists, and AI stroke automation coders, I think, would be really 4 interesting skills to focus in on at present.
Yeah, I do ask that question a lot, and I think gosh, those are good ones. But I also, someone said this one to me recently. They're like, writers, just be a great writer. Be a great writer. And Geoff, you might even have mentioned it before in one of our past, but what if she's this woman who gave it to me basically said, I'm always looking for great writers that can write PowerPoint presentations, that can write great copy for social media management, that can write blogs. And those are things that, and I'll transition over to this question, or segue over to this question. Writing is definitely one way and one skill to stand out. What other ways do you say right now, especially using LinkedIn, to build your network, to grow, to get attention of those who are in the decision-making process? What other ways for people to stand out right now that you notice out there in the world, in social media world and digital media world, that are people standing out to you and executives that are standing out to you?
Yeah, great. I just want to, I'll maybe just comment on your last thought. You're absolutely right. I would call those people storytellers. And if you think of Disney tell a story, they tell it well, but they tell it often. And everybody loves a beautiful start, middle, and an ending, but something that's gripping. And as human beings, we get engaged, we get immersed in telling stories. And I think that's a really interesting space. So I totally agree with you. In terms of advice or tips I would give, I'm going to break it into 2 broad areas and 4 to 5 points under the 2 areas. So work with me. And point number 1, those are starting out on the career. So that's who I'm talking to at the minute. So those people that are just finished their sports management, or maybe in their last year or first year in business, those career starters, I would say 4 points to you: network within the industry. Number 2, keep learning, expand your knowledge. Number 3, attend conferences or virtual conferences to see what's happening and who those speakers are. And number 4, go and volunteer for roles. Go to your local soccer club, your local football club, go to your local franchise, go to your local baseball, and say to them, this is the experience that I want. And make sure you get experience in the experience that you want. Just don't get experience for experience sake, but get volunteer for experience that you really want as an individual, to put that on your CV. The second group I want to talk about is the industry pros, the industry peers. And I would give them 5 points. And you've said the first one again is number 1, to network. network on LinkedIn, network within the industry, get to know people, network. Number 2, write a blog. Try and figure out a subject that you like. It could be communication, storytelling in sport. It could be fan engagement. It could be commercialization. What do you want to write about? And post regularly, but have great content around that blog. Be seen as that expert. Number 3, like here, speak. So rather the first one's all about listening, this is about speaking on podcasts and in conferences. So you're really seen as that person with something really important that people want to hear from. Number 4, I would say go and write a book or develop certain models. And I think I've talked before, there's some sports business models that I've created, and that helps so that people can start to get something back from those models, or write a book on sport. What I've done as well is, as we're going to talk about maybe later, is written an e-learning course. So you want to do that, writing a book, an e-learning course, developing models, because that provides some sort of a really solid platform. And the last, number 5, to the industry or pros, I would say, really communicate with your network on a really basis. How are you going to do that? So that could be starting a podcast. It could be sharing news on the likes of LinkedIn. So to recap, if you're starting out, network, keep learning, attend conferences or virtual conferences, volunteer for roles. If you're an industry pro, network, write a blog, speak at conferences or podcasts, write a book or do an e-learning course or develop models. And number 4, expand and really communicate regularly with your network. That could be, for example, starting a podcast, sharing content information.
Yeah, that's a lot. Try do all of them. Just do all of them. And it's so important. It's so important to not poo-poo LinkedIn. I mean, this is the opportunity to go on offense. You mentioned e-learning, and you mentioned never stop learning. And I know that you have done a course now in digital marketing with Barcelona FC. Let's talk about that. Who's your target audience? Who you're pinpointing, and what do they walk away from learning from you, and what are the things that they'll gain from taking this course?
Yeah, I've been very fortunate to be asked by the with Barcelona Football Club and their innovation hub. They have created a program for e-learning, and that e-learning covers a range of topics. And the topic that they've asked me to create an e-learning platform is digital marketing in sport. So when you go onto Google, if you type in digital marketing in sport and put in Barca Innovation Hub, you'll see the course. So the course is really broken down into what's happening in the industry at present, what's those big things. It talks about how to do a digital audit. So rather than running into let's post, right, where are you at the minute? So what is a digital audit? How to conduct a digital audit, and tools and techniques to conduct a digital audit. Then you conduct your digital plan, and part of that is your content plan. There's a whole range of other bits. So what is your plan? What are you looking to do rather than just winging it? What is it you're looking to do? And then we focus in on a range of digital areas, fan engagement. We focus in on revenue, digital revenue. We focus on esports and gaming. We focus on CRM and data. We focus on the resources and a range of areas. And each one of those you will go through over a period of time. It's all distance learning. And you will get a certificate, a formal certificate from the course that allows you then to put that on your CV. And because obviously the Barcelona brand is so well known, there's a lot of credibility with it, but you get a formalized certificate from the course. You do it at your own pace. There's a mixture of listening to me. I'm sorry for that. Also, lots of content. There's templates, there's case studies, there's models, but it's really, really practical. Something that you can put in right now into your sport or in your federation, your club. So who's it aimed at? It's aimed at clubs, franchises, teams, federations, grassroots, and at the elite level. It's flexible to be at all of those levels. And it's aimed at not only those starting out, the sports students, the sports management students, but it's also aimed at those people who are working full time within sports marketing sphere. And what's been really good, now let me just be really clear, I'm just an average guy. So there's nothing, an average guy. And if I can do this, so can anybody else. But what's been lovely is I've now started to get lots of people from massive, massive sports organizations complimenting us on the course and how much they've learned from it, challenged them, and how practical and things that they can then bring in. And that is great. That is something that I really want to do. I'm going on in years, hence the grey hair, and nothing better than be able to give something or back or give some thoughts to someone that they can then implement in their own organization, their own sports organization that can improve it. So that's who it's aimed at. And as I say, people can go on to the Google website, just put in digital marketing and sport, Barca Innovation Hub, and you'll see, hopefully you'll see the course on the first page.
Well, no average guy, so no average guy like you, Geoff, has curtains like that behind you. So, you're just an average guy, and you're just a heck of a human being, and a very well respected sports executive in this industry. So you're being humble. As always, just love spending time with you and hearing your perspective. We are definitely examples of the world is small, and how you treat people and how you build your network is so important. We're not curing cancer. We're just talking about sports and the industry and trying to help people with their careers. So
that's right.
Geoff, thank you again.
You're very welcome, Rob, and thanks again, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir. So that's Geoff Wilson. I'm Rob Thompson. You're watching Game Plan U today. Go out, make it a great week, making a difference in someone's life, and get in the game, everybody. Take care.